E.c. there have been some good people born here. Kirksville, Mo. We have the entity in those relations with the universe and universal forces, as are latent and exhibited in the present entity. 101. A condition worthy of note. For at least 3 experiences the entity has entered the Earth plane in March. In entering, astrologically, we find the entity coming under the influence of Mercury, Mars, Uranus, Venus, Jupiter, and under Pisces, close to the cusps. Hence extraordinary in many respects, doing whatever really undertaking to do well. In the influences irrespective of the astrological, we would find some changes, and this entity a very good illustration of the differentiation between relativity of astrological experience, weighted with Earth's application, and purely astrological influence, or horoscopic influence. For will being the factor in application of any influence, whether hereditary or environmental, plays that portion in an entity's experience of whether the development is up or reverse, or whether hardships or service became stepping stones for the entity, or burdens weighting the entity down to such environment that the entity becomes overcome, rather than overcoming, with self-application. In the influence, then, irrespective of all's application, we would find one of high mentality, should ever live close to large bodies of water, but stay on that portion of land chosen as the home, or country, or land for voyages or distant lands, while calling, and are the innate desires, as will be seen why, yet to remain in a given place the better development for the entity. One that, with Mars' influence with Uranus, causes exceptional application of all necessary often in control, or controlling self-sown urges. One, then, quick to wrath, yet being able, when second thought or the Jupiterian influence is exercised, to control self, and is a real saving grace for the entity. In the application of will as related to the present experience, these conditions have been altered, yet often the entity feels that little has been gained. At others the expression of abilities in mental and in the application of self through intuitive forces brings the consciousness of having accomplished much. Well, however, that this consciousness be controlled, rather than allowing same to control self. In Uranian, we find that of the innate forces as applied to those influences that often give the entity the ability to even control others, where others may feel they are of greater experience, or even greater abilities. The entity able, through the intuitive self, to empower the personal application of self in such control. A condition, a position, to be reckoned with, and all would be desirous of same. Well may the entity apply this, or may it be used to self-subduing. In those innate expressions of self, often the entity does experience, that the whole purpose of life and self is not tied up in any one direction, and it's true. In others may the entity, and the entity's abilities, be reflected. In the life of others may the personality of the entity be enacted and reflected. Yet much may be accomplished by the entity in more than one direction. In the appearance, and their varied influence in the present experience, and in others, in the one before this we find the entity among those who served the king in his attempt to escape from France, in the town where the carriage broke down, in the name Yonville. In this experience the entity gained and lost. Gained in the service as was given and as applied. Lost in the position as one raised to power by those that headed rebellion, yet gaining again in that the entity learned a lesson and applied self in the latter portion to the aiding of those that suffered physical reverses of the rebellion. Hence ever the innate feeling of just being almost in turmoils, yet never encompassed, yet often well set down by same, overcome, empowered, subdued, yet rising above same. Never a reverse without an equal bound upward. An application of will, and called in the material plane determination, for the entity is often very determined, if classed in that direction. Rather would we give it when such modified with those influences from the ennobling powers of Jupiter, the dominating, or domineering is called, the application of will in the proper direction. In the one before this we find in that period that has often been called mythological, when in Troy, and the siege of Same. The entity then an aid and assistant, yet still in the sex as the woman, but an aid to that one over whom the disputes arose, aiding particularly when Paris and Hector and Achilles first drew the lines for the array before the city. The entity then, not as a soldier, not as a servant, rather as the aid to that one that brought about such dissensions, aided Achilles in entering the gate, by calling to the sun, and is the sun 102 still to open when called. In the present we find much of that vim, that application of power. Used aright, a blessing. Used wrong, a curse. In the name Xenia, and the entity has often wondered when those letters were put together. The innate self may gain much by the study of the name, even as written. Many visions, of many fields, of many positions, of many places, may be brought close to the consciousness by meditation on just a name. In the one before this we find in that land now known as Egypt, the entity in that period when there were dissensions on account of divisions in high places, among those to whom the banished priest sent, and an aid in that land, returning to the city with those of the band brought when restoration was made and the people was thought as one, and aided in giving the understanding of man's relationship to his fellow man and to his creator. In and from this experience the entity, as I asked to, gains much of its influence over those in position, in power. Also that innate feeling of wishing to aid those ailing. In the one before this we find in that land now known as Western United States, in the state known as New Mexico, the entity among those of that land when there were emissaries sent to the meetings of the peoples that would defend themselves against those beasts and the animal world. The entity then as an emissary, as one who went to the meeting and reporting same and at that period one that went to many climes. Always the curious, the unusual, has had a fascination for the entity. The out-of-the-way places, not necessarily of high place, but rather that influenced the mind of the peoples in the various places, their surroundings, their environs, their experiences, and especially his clothing or coverings always fascinated. Yes, the entity would have made a good merchant, or a good buyer, yet a better doctor. As to the abilities, as is seen, much has been gained through application of self's will, when the will made one with the creative energy's purpose in the earth's plane. When combative with that, often has come, will come, is that which brings doubt, fear, uncertainty, in the experience of the entity. Fear is the greatest destructive force to man's intelligence. In the application, and how, apply self in that direction in which the most aid to the fellow man, in applying will, in applying knowledge, in applying understanding of creative energy's purpose with man, to make man one with and equal to the creative energy, will bring to self the satisfaction of the experience well spent, and when these are added no uncertainty may come, as to whether power, place, position, wealth, or self will not suffer. Ready for questions. Q. Should present way of living be followed, or is change advisable for better contentment? A. Work well with that in hand, adding to that as comes with the use of that, and the changes as will come will be those satisfying, if the will is made one with the Creator. We are through.